Back when I was in seminary, my class went on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. We got to spend 5 days doing a silent retreat along the Sea of Galilee, and it was awesome because unlike every other place in the Holy Land, the Sea of Galilee has not been turned into a church. Every spot where Christ has so much as sneezed is now a church, but they have not yet figured out how to turn an entire sea into a basilica. Not yet. Now, I like churches, but it was a blessing to be in this location that looks exactly how it looked when Christ did his public ministry. The same shoreline that was home to so many miracles, so many parables, the same water that Christ walked upon. It's also the same place where Christ gave our gospel today. It's from the Sermon on the Mount. Now, on the Mount, they could build the church there, so they did. But just down the Mount, they built a retreat center where my seminary class stayed. And when you think of the Holy Land, you tend to think of barren desert. But this area of Israel is abundantly green. The retreat center where we stayed, it was surrounded by this beautiful lime tree orchard with wild donkeys that guarded it and would bite you if you approached them. But why were there limes here in so much lush beauty? Because the Sea of Galilee, it has water. All this water that flows from the mountains creates this lush environment that supports life. From the fish to the lime trees to the wild donkeys, this area has all this life. But it's not just the reception of water that brings life, because there is another sea in the Holy Land that receives the same exact water. But in contrast to this overwhelming life around the Sea of Galilee, this sea is called the Dead Sea. Now, why is it the Dead Sea? Because water flows into it, but does not flow out. It just sits there and evaporates, and over a millennium, all that's left is just the salt. So the Dead Sea is 9 times saltier than the ocean with a 35% salt content. The Dead Sea is full of death. No fish, no lime trees, no wild donkeys that try to bite you. That might be good. But even though it receives water, there is no life. Last week we talked about Christ's plan for happiness, the Beatitudes. We talked about poverty, about how it's not about an absence of material goods, but an openness of heart to receive. The poverty is all about being able to receive totally from God. And today we hear about the other aspect of happiness and poverty, which is giving. Because receiving alone does not make us happy. If we don't receive and then put that gift completely to its deepest purpose. In our gospel, Christ talks about salt and light. Salt is used to give food flavor, but also to preserve it. It was so valuable in ancient times, it was worth more than gold. Soldiers, they were paid in salt, hence the term salary. How much your boss thinks you are worth your salt. Salt is valuable because it goes with everything. Salt makes everything better. But Christ asks, if salt loses its saltiness, its purpose, what good is it? Light is used to help people see. That's good. But if you place a candle and put it underneath a basket, what happens? It does not help people see. It will probably catch your basket on fire and then burn down your entire house. The light has a purpose for good, but when it's frustrated from its purpose, it ends up being destructive. In just the same way, the Christian is meant to receive from Christ, but then give from Christ. And to not do so can become destructive. People, when they leave the church, it's not from some theological investigation. Nobody looks at the church's teachings and claims and says, this does not make sense, I'm leaving. Nobody leaves over an intellectual reason. What happens is they get wounded by someone who represents the church and they fall away. Someone that's meant to be salt and light becomes the opposite. They become pepper and darkness. When my class visited the Dead Sea, it was a lot of fun. You can just float in the water. We all left bleeding because the floor of the Dead Sea is sharp salt crystals that cut you. I have a scar on my hand from the Dead Sea seabed. But so often, that can be our faith. It can be fun. We get to float in God's love, okay? But the water doesn't flow anywhere. And instead of being Sea of Galilee Christians who receive fully from the Lord in our poverty and give fully to the Lord through our poverty, we can become Dead Sea Christians who only focus upon receiving. And that water we receive just evaporates, leaving behind problems in a dead sea in our heart. How much of our world is Dead Sea? How many of our families are Dead Seas? How many of our parishes are Dead Seas? Is the campus ministry, are we a Dead Sea? That we get so caught up in receiving and accumulating more goods that we forget the entire point of our faith, to bring light to this world. Every baptized Christian is called to be a Sea of Galilee, not a Dead Sea. We get to receive fully and then give fully. We can't receive and hold on forever. We can't take everything in, but refuse to share. We become a Dead Sea. Think about how we're all alive because we breathe. Not just breathe in, but breathe out. We breathe in, we receive life. We breathe out and make space in our hearts for more air. If you don't breathe out, you die. If you don't give life, you die. We're called to receive and then give. For today, I have 2 tips about how to be a Sea of Galilee. Tip 1. The Sea of Galilee is currently dying. Israel, a few decades back, decided to use their water to irrigate the desert. So more and more was being done with less and less, which is causing the Sea of Galilee to dramatically drop its water level. They have piers there that are about 20 feet from the shore, because it's going down that much. Which, by the way, it's also causing the Dead Sea to become more dead. But 3 months ago, Israel announced they're going to take ocean water, desalinate it, and pour it into the Sea of Galilee to help raise the water levels. Because in order to give life, you do need to receive. And sometimes there's this reality that I'm doing too much with too little, that I am not receiving enough. So for this week, ask, am I receiving enough to bring life to those around me? Do I take time in prayer each day, take time with my friends, take time for rest, take time that's needed to recharge my heart? Do I let God pour into me? Do I let my friends pour into me? Am I receiving? And tip 2, the big question, where do I pour myself out? Where do the good things I receive, where do they go? Do they just stay in my life and slowly transform me into a Dead Sea? Or does it flow out beyond me to those around me, those that God has placed in my life? What's my mission? For myself as a priest, it's built into my life. That's nice. I can play Minesweeper and go skiing, and it's part of my vocation. I wear my collar, and people see that. They're reminded of God. Okay, that's good. But for the laity, you have to be more intentional. So ask, how are you bringing salt and light to this world? We're currently doing sign-ups for student missionaries, students who intentionally seek to spread the gospel. But everyone is called to mission, to be a Sea of Galilee. So what are you doing? Do you only receive and receive? Or do you receive and pour yourself out into God, to those around you? In the gospel, Christ says, your good deeds must be seen. This may sound like it contradicts the gospel we'll hear in 10 days at Ash Wednesday, when Christ says, do not let your good deeds be seen. But the difference is that one is seen to glorify God, the other is seen to glorify self. One is the reality of God's love overflowing our hearts to the world around us. The other is the sadness of not having enough and wanting to receive the praise of others. The Christian life may be hidden, but it should not be hiding. Let us be more fully a Sea of Galilee that brings forth abundant life wherever it touches. And let us not be dead seas that only receive and then nothing. Let us receive from God the Father and pour forth into the mission God has for us this day. God bless.